It's time now for Movie Spotlight, our weekly feature where we look at the latest cinematic releases at the box office and online. That means it's time to bring in our film critics, of course, back from the Busan International Film Festival. First, we have Jason Bechervaise. Jason, hello, it's good to see you.
Hello, Django. It's great to be here, back in the studio after last week's, shenanigans.
Yes, trying to get the video connections all up and running as well. And we have Darcy Paquet with us as well. Hello, Darcy.
Hi, it's good to be back.
Right, we're going to have a final wrap-up of Busan a bit later, but first there is a local new release to talk about. It is the violent thriller Hopeless. In Korea, it's called Hwaran, which is actually an old Korean word for Holland, I believe, or the Netherlands. That title will get clearer as we talk more about the story as well. It premiered in Cannes earlier this year, actually, and it also screened at the Busan Film Festival last week. It stars popular actor Song Joong-gi. Jason, can you tell us more?
Yeah, so this is the latest dark thriller by Senai Pictures. They're behind a number of hits, including some rather dark films, The Shameless and Aurora as well, Asura rather. And it's directed and written by Kim Chang-hoon. This is his feature debut, and features like you say, Song Joong-gi, one of Korea's big stars, up alongside a more unfamiliar face, Hong Sa-bin. He's been in a few films, but I think we're going to see more of him going forwards. So the film essentially focuses on this teenager played by Hong Sa-bin, and he's being physically abused by his stepfather, who's very much drunk most of the time, and his mother and stepsister are unable to really do anything about it. And so unsurprisingly, he wants to get out of the house, out of the country. He's got his eyes on Holland or the Netherlands because he thinks perhaps it's of a fairer society. He comes very much from a working class background. He saves money working as a delivery driver at this kind of Chinese restaurant. But his stepfather attacks him, leaves this huge scar on his face. And he's also in need of money to settle a case following an incident at school. So he ends up in this gang, essentially, and a gang of loan shots, and he forms there a relationship with this mid-level boss played by Song Joong-gi. And from there, it's basically a spiral of decline. A further spiral of decline. It's really depressing, frankly speaking. So this relationship is sort of ambiguous, between the Song Joong-gi character and the teenager. Is the boss trying to help him? Is he trying to exploit him? Or is he generally... is it a bit of both?
Right.
It reminded me a bit of Greenfish, Lee Chang-dong's film. Starring Han So-gyu, premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in uncertain regard, and I think typical I say of a Korean film that goes to Cannes. It's a hard-hitting social film, albeit with genre elements as well.
Darcy, I understand that you did the subtitles for this film. So what are your thoughts on it? As Jason said, it sounds rather grim.
I mean, it is grim. It starts grim and then it gets grimmer as it goes along. And, one might ask, what's the joy in watching a film like this?
There is no joy.
In its favor, I guess, the film, it has kind of an interesting relationship between the lead characters. It's kind of, it's sort of a loss of innocence type of story, although, from the first scene, he's kind of lost his innocence already.
Right.
The setting is sort of interesting. It's, it's not really, it's kind of an area outside of the city. A lot of the characters kind of make these references to the fact that they feel kind of stuck in this community, that they can't escape it. The main character hopes to go abroad, but Song Joong-gi's characters as well. The initial connection between the two of them is the fact that, this younger person has also grown up in the same neighborhood, and they is very much a local. And so there's some kind of a recognition or a connection between them. But where that relationship's going to go, you have to kind of follow it as it goes, because there are lots of ups and downs.
But does it work? I mean, is it an interesting film?
I mean, for me, I don't know. I had a fair amount of expectation going in because I knew that the people had talked the film up before I got to see it, like even before I got to work on the subtitles.
Right.
You know, a film like this, you know, a heavy, grim film like that, it's tough to do subtitles because you're stuck in the film for several weeks. But yeah, I mean, I guess to me, it felt a little bit familiar is the one thing that
Okay.
You know, we've seen a lot of dark Korean films, and, you know, Korean cinema has established itself as being a cinema that's willing to go into dark places. And, you know, generally people have applauded, you know, critics have applauded Korean cinema for that. This didn't feel like new territory. It felt somewhat familiar. And obviously it was interesting to have a star like Song Joong-gi, who, you know, I think on TV has kind of a very different image. And, you know,
Right.
he did agree to appear in this film for free.
Really?
After reading the screenplay.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I think one of the reasons perhaps is just that he wanted to kind of broaden, you know, his acting experience and to expand his image somewhat. And he did a really good job, I would say. I mean, I think the acting in this film is very strong.
Right. I was going to ask about that because it does feel and sound like an independent film, really.
It
with
does at the
its,
beginning, for sure.
Kind of
Yeah.
social conscience storyline and its darkness, but at the same time, it has this A-list star as one of the main characters. I don't quite know what to make of it, Jason, looking at the trailers.
Yeah, I went to see it. It was screening at the Busan Film Festival. I wasn't able to catch it there, so I watched it in a theatre here, and it certainly reminded me of kind of Korean indie films, not least Breathless. I mentioned Greenfish earlier by Lee Chang-dong. There's also this film called Breathless, which also deals with domestic abuse. And it's grim, it's gritty, and it's full of foul language. And that very much is a hugely significant film in the realm of independent cinema. It played well in cinemas. It also went to various film festivals. And so it's interesting how the independent sector now, and coming back from Busan, and you've got a lot of films there, and a lot of films in Jeonju I saw earlier on this year, and they just, the aesthetic, the approach to some of these films, not all of them, but some of them is different. I mean, some of them are quite comical. They're dealing with issues in kind of more inventive ways. And whereas this film kind of reminded me of the classic indie look, albeit with some commercial aspects. You've obviously got this major star in the film, albeit, basically playing the role for free. But, it is genre driven in certain parts of the story. It is violent. Some could argue maybe a bit exploitative. And so, I came out feeling a little bit kind of confused because it's like, I thought, as we watch Korean cinema evolving, we're seeing it change, and we're seeing the commercial sector and the films that are coming out at the moment, and also the independent sector as well. And it's kind of like, wow, you've got the commercial industry going in one way, and then you've got the independent sector going another way, and it's kind of a bit of a mesh. And so, it's an interesting film. Does it really work? I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I think, as Darcy mentioned, it just feels all too familiar. It's just not. I mean, you do have Song Joong-gi in there in what I think otherwise probably would have been an independent film.
I think some people will like it.
Oh, absolutely.
It'll definitely find its fans, and it's a very well-made film. I mean, I can say that
it is well-made.
It's well-directed, well put together. It's just, I mean, I guess having watched so many Korean films over the years, and it felt like, I was kind of hoping for something different.
Sure, but still, definitely sounds like an interesting film at the least. So that was Hopeless, or Hwaran, out now in cinemas. Now, as promised, we'll look back at the Busan International Film Festival one last time as well, to hear what our critics thought about it, and perhaps what some of their favourite films were this year. We spoke to Jason last week, so Darcy, let's start with you. What did you make of the festival overall, not least given its well-documented difficulties this year?
Yeah, they seemed to pull it off quite well. I mean,
they did, yeah.
The mood there was upbeat.
Yep.
People. The only one main complaint that everybody had was that it was hard to get tickets.
Oh yeah.
Which is a symptom of its own success. If the audience hadn't shown up, then it would have been easy to get tickets. But a lot of people came down, especially during the weekend. I tried myself. They had an online reservation system.
8 a.m.
So I woke up early, and the these empty seats were flashing before my eyes, and every time I'd click on them, they'd be gone already. So literally within 30 seconds, a lot of films were selling out. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to be there. You know, they had a lot of festival guests, both famous and non-famous. I stayed in for a lot of the Q&A sessions after the screenings, and you know, the Busan audience was kind of living up to its reputation as being this really kind of passionate audience that takes an interest even in quite difficult films, or sometimes, you know, even quite slow films. You get, you know, a big crowd and then asking really challenging kind of deep questions. And so you could see that the filmmakers who were visiting Busan were kind of impressed by the audience. And yeah, so that was the main festival. There were no major glitches that I was aware of in terms of the organization, which some people had worried about because they had started so late with the organization. And then the market, which is the industry section, was particularly successful. It was the biggest one ever. Lots of people there, everyone quite happy with everything that went on in the market. So yeah, thumbs up, I guess.
Interesting. Jason, we don't have a lot of time, but yes, what did you make of it? What would you like to talk about? Some of the highlights from the festival, maybe some films that you saw as well?
Yeah, sure. So, getting tickets was pretty tricky, but yeah, just basically completely agreeing with Darcy. I mean, the atmosphere down there was electric. Lots of people down there. It definitely felt like it was well run and well organised. In terms of the films, one of my favourites was undoubtedly the Yellow Door 90s lo-fi film club documentary by Lee Hyuk-rae. It drops on Netflix in a few weeks. We'll talk about that later, I think. But yeah, it features Bong Joon-ho. Absolutely fantastic. Love that. So in Vision, I think one of the standouts was Oh Jong-min's House of the Seasons that won the KBS Independent Film Award, and also the CGK award. Centres on this family who run this tofu factory in this rural area. Is really fun and interesting and touching, and it's got some raves from the trade publications. So I see that travelling to a few festivals. There's also Concerning My Daughter by Lee Mi-rang that picked up the CGV award, which is rather telling. So that they tend to go for films that they think have theatrical potential. It's about a young woman who returns home to live with her mother, and the relationship sours because she brings her long-term same-sex partner. So again, plenty of strong reviews there, and I think its themes are bound to connect. In New Currents, I'd recommend Son Hyuk-dok's Summer's Lie, which is one of the Korean films in the New Currents section. And that's really interesting. It's about a high school student who writes a very frank and honest account about her summer, which catches the attention of her school teacher. So, that's highly recommended as well.
And Darcy, what about you? Which films caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of overlap with what Jason just said in terms of, you know, House of the Seasons and That Summer's Lie were both really strong films that, you know, you could feel people kind of getting excited about them and talking about them. I mean, I'll mention one more that, if you're a fan of kind of nasty horror, I did get a chance to see a movie called The Guest, which was...
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
It's a 77-minute film, so it's quite short and to the point.
Short and punchy.
It is nasty. In terms of the theme, it's a bit uncomfortable, but because the main characters are not really people who you'd want to cheer for. And then there's the bad guy that comes up who's even worse. But it was shot with a lot of energy, and, you know, as kind of a well-made thriller / nasty horror film. It was quite successful. The crowd liked it a lot.
Okay, it's quite a selection for the wider audience to look forward to once again. That's it for Movie Spotlight. Jason, Darcy, thank you for coming in and providing us with your reviews as always.
Okay, great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.